Hello everyone. This is a story for you to fall asleep with. Before you get comfortable, like the video and subscribe for more. Also, comment where are you from and what time are you listening. Enjoy.
In the year 2147, colors were a thing of the past. The sky had dulled to a permanent ash gray, a colorless ceiling that never shifted, never broke. Buildings rose like monoliths of steel and concrete, pragmatic, faceless structures devoid of ornamentation. Nature, what little remained, stood petrified in place. Trees were skeletal relics, their bark bleached and cracked, leaves long extinct. Grass was replaced with synthetic ground cover. Even the air smelled sterilized. Under the rule of the World Coalition, creativity was eliminated, not gradually, but decisively. In the decades following the collapse series of cascading environmental failures, resource wars, and socio-political upheavals, global leaders concluded that unchecked emotion, nationalism, and artistic individualism had fractured society beyond repair. Art, music, literature, once seen as expressions of humanity, were blamed as dangerous catalysts. They said it was art that glorified division, that it was music that stoked rebellion, that it was literature that fueled ideologies and romanticized dissent. And so they burned it all. They called it the streamlining, an age of purification. The coalition adopted a new ethos: purpose over passion, efficiency above all. Anything non-functional was systematically erased. Educational programs were restructured to emphasize logic and precision. Emotional suppression training began in early childhood. Jobs were assigned based on aptitude algorithms. Emotional outbursts were categorized as psychological malfunctions. Dreams were monitored, cataloged, and in some cases, treated. The arts, once sacred, were condemned. Museums were converted into data centers. Concert halls became drone storage silos. Bookstores were stripped and repurposed as simulation training hubs. Creativity became criminal. And yet, despite all this, Lily dreamed. She had just graduated from the new standardized university. Her major, art history, was a symbolic discipline, kept around like an old scar to remind society of what not to repeat. Most of her classmates transitioned into algorithmic law, digital infrastructure, or neurocode regulation. But Lily walked out of those gray halls with an old leather satchel slung across her shoulder and something quietly radical in her heart: hope. Inside that satchel was a forbidden artifact, a sketchbook passed down from her grandmother, one of the last legal art instructors before the purges. Its pages were stained with charcoal and ink, worn thin at the edges. Her grandmother had once whispered, "Art is memory. Never forget." Lily never did. She didn't want to join the sanctioned creativity labs propaganda factories for state-approved design. She wanted to make real art, raw, vibrant, chaotic. Art that told stories, that bled emotion, that stirred the soul. Her first attempts at legitimacy failed. Applications to historical preservation centers were denied. Her portfolio was labeled irrational, her brushwork undisciplined. She tried public portrait sketches near transit hubs, offering to draw people in exchange for old paper or ink. But public gatherings were banned unless authorized. Authority drones arrived within minutes. She was scanned, her materials confiscated. Her ID was tagged with a violation code. That night, in her shared dormitory room, Lily sat by a flickering LED bulb and drew on the back of a ration slip. Her fingers trembled, but her lines were steady. She sketched a bird mid-flight. Defiant, her art became her rebellion. The lower sectors of the city were largely abandoned, buried beneath newer expansions, neglected and crumbling. It was there, amid rusted staircases and flickering lamps, that Lily found Gregor. He was hunched beneath a collapsed sky bridge, sketching with a real pencil on real paper. "You draw?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Gregor looked up. His face was weathered but his eyes sharp. "So do you," he said, nodding toward her satchel. Gregor was a former civil engineer, retired not by choice, but because he had preserved ornamental blueprint spiral staircases, domed ceilings, and bridges with flourish. Such designs were deemed inefficient, wasteful. He'd kept them anyway. His mind had not forgotten how beauty worked its way into structure, how curves could hold just as firm as angles, if not more. He remembered the purge, the day when aesthetics were reclassified as liabilities. His colleagues either adapted or disappeared. Gregor went underground, literally and figuratively. In the echo of forgotten metro tunnels and unused ventilation shafts, he found others like him. Over several meetings, Gregor introduced Lily to a hidden world and underground network of creators, painters, musicians, sculptors, storytellers. They gathered in forgotten basements, old libraries, maintenance shafts. There, creativity was not dead. It simply hid. Gregor told stories of the old world, not the sanitized versions in coalition handbooks, but the real ones. He spoke of parks filled with dancers, murals 10 stories high, poetry slams under bridges, impromptu jazz sessions in alleyways. He shared what little he had, saved scraps of sheet music, broken instrument pieces, coded poetry archives. He saw in Lily something rare, unshaped passion. "Your lines have urgency," he told her, "like you're racing against extinction." With his mentorship, Lily began painting again, but this time, publicly and anonymously. Her first mural appeared on a broken floodgate wall, a pair of hands releasing a burst of color that spiraled into birds. The next morning, a worker left a flower below it. No signature, just silence. Then came the whispers, the phantom brush. Her mural spread like wildfire, a constellation blooming from a child's outstretched hand. A rusted factory wall transformed into a sea of golden sunflowers. Dancers twirling across old hydro turbines. For the first time in decades, people felt. Children began chalking suns on sidewalks. Workers left bright patches on their gray uniforms. An old baker used colored icing to draw roses onto ration bread. The coalition reacted swiftly. The murals were classified as subversive symbolism. Patrols increased. Surveillance tightened. Arrests were made. Gregor urged Lily to stop. "They're hunting you," he warned. "I know," she replied. "But it's not just me anymore." It was after a mural near the old observatoria, swirl of galaxies cradled in a pair of open hands, that she met Juno. Juno was a technician in the core grid central nervous system of the city's data and surveillance network. She was cybernetic, artificial eyes, mechanical limbs, neural implants. She had been enhanced from childhood, optimized for speed, logic, and emotionless efficiency. She had no memory of her parents, just glimmers of a garden, laughter, music, nothing more. Her life was code and compliance, until she saw Lily's work. The mural struck her like static. It bypassed her neural firewalls, struck something deeper, an ache, a memory, a longing. "It made me feel," she said to Lily, weeks later, after tracking her through scrambled data. "I didn't think that was possible." Juno began helping, quietly, riskily. She rerouted surveillance feeds, cloaked heat signatures, created a digital shadow identity, the phantom brush. She stored backups of the murals in a private off-grid node. "You make people remember," she said. "I want to remember too." They grew close, slowly, carefully, not with words, but with looks, shared silences, a hand on a shoulder that lingered. Emotion was dangerous, but some things were worth the risk. With Juno's support, Lily expanded. Holographic projections of dancers illuminated alleyways. Poetry fragments flickered across skyscraper glass. Graffiti encoded in old programming languages spelled out banned verses. Then the crackdown came. Gregor was arrested in the night, his studio razed, his books burned, the network fractured. Juno went darker access cut, her systems attacked. Lily hid. Fear seeped into her bones. Every knock became a threat. She packed a bag, planning to flee. Rumors spoke of communes past the outer wall. where artists still lived freely. But she remembered Gregor's words. Art isn't just beauty. It's memory, resistance. If you run, who will paint what's left? She stayed. One night, under the hum of surveillance drones, Lily crept to the eastern dam. With her last cache of paint, she began her greatest work. A phoenix rising from the wreckage of a shattered city, wings spread across meters of concrete, feathers rippling with color. She painted through the night, hands blistered, tears streaking her cheeks. And when she turned, she wasn't alone. Children stood beside her, carrying brushes and buckets. Behind them, teenagers. Then adults, workers, programmers, former enforcers. They had come. Together, they painted. The Wall of Light was born. A living mural stretching across the dam. Families in parks, birds in flight, music notes soaring through skies. It was memory. It was hope. It was defiance. The coalition hesitated. To destroy it meant confronting thousands. A united front. Instead, they pivoted, declared the wall a cultural restoration project. Historical, harmless. But everyone knew. Juno returned scarred, but alive. She began restoring lost art archives, uploading them to shadow networks. Gregor, released due to mass protests, smiled weakly when he saw the phoenix. Art returned, quietly, relentlessly. Lily never sought fame. She remained a myth, a ghost with paint-stained hands. But her legacy lived. Each year, young artists gathered at the Wall of Light. They placed their palms on the faded mural, tracing the cracks, adding their own touches. They didn't remember every name, but they remembered one truth. Someone, once, dared to dream in color. And that made all the difference.